What is up and welcome back to the Talking Nutrition Podcast. We are back with a Q&A episode. Today we have a recording from our kind of like secret behind closed doors mini challenge that we did February 19th through 23rd. We talked about mindset, training, nutrition. We talked about taking action, basically, like really doing something for your goals, and planning, periodization, a lot of good stuff. And again, like I said, it was a little bit of like a kind of like a secret, kind of behind closed doors um, challenge because, I mean, first of all, 5 days is very short, but I wanted to kind of see who's paying attention here. And I sent it out to our newsletter only, a couple of people on Instagram, handful of people kind of, joined. And you know what? It's been great. It's been really cool. And it always shows who's the real action taker. So I don't mind sharing numbers and stuff. So we had 17 people join us for this, which is really cool. It was very last minute. It was a free mini challenge. And it always just, again, like I said, it shows who's the real action taker, who pays attention, who is willing to take action, and who actually signs up for something like this. And I told everyone, like, guys, listen, before we even get started, a 5-day mini challenge that's free comes with a few downsides. First of all, it's free, so you're very likely to not take it serious. And then again, same kind of thing with the 5 days. It's very short. We can talk about a lot of stuff, and we've been doing that, right? 5 days in a row, I've been going live for 45 minutes to teach and to answer questions. And we've done that for free. Why? Because we want to help our people. And we want to help you. I also want you to know that we're doing more challenges, right? So if you're not a member of our Facebook group yet, I highly encourage you to join us. So if you're not a member, I'm going to drop, I was going to say drink, I'm going to drop the link in the show notes and join us. It's a free group and we do challenges. We do sometimes live trainings and free resources and those kind of things. Go check it out. No strings attached, no like sales or shit. Like I just want to help you and I want to have a place where we can meet, basically. And then if you want to join us for that next challenge, feel free to do so. Now, today we are going to get into a Q&A. Like I said, we had just about 17 people show up. And then I think just about half are like consistently, asking questions, which is usually how it goes with, challenges in general. And you know what? We covered a lot of good stuff. So let's get into it. We are going to basically cover anything from nutrition to mindset to planning and periodization to taking action. So altogether, all important stuff. Let's dive into it. Okay, perfect. What is up? Last final day of the mini challenge. I was just writing down the points for our questions. So as we know, right, these questions need to be submitted before our call so that we can actually dive into them. So you guys luckily took action and took care of that, which is great. So we have a couple good ones. Today's a little bit different than the other days. I mostly just want to riff and just kind of see like what you guys bring up in the questions, and of course, kind of share what we're going to do in March as well, because it's always fun to do something for 5 days, but what if we do it longer, right? What if we do it longer? And we all know that it is going to take more time. It's definitely going to take a lot more time than we expect. And that's not just like longer than 5 days. I mean, if we think something is going to take weeks, it's usually going to take months, you see. If we think that we are going to reach our goal, sorry, in the meantime, we're writing down stuff. If we think in the meantime here we go, perfect. If we think that we are going to reach our goal in a couple months, it might just take half a year or a year plus. So I kind of wanted to just kind of start with that, because realistic expectations, guys, is like, it's going to take some time, right? Let's be honest. We know it's going to take time, and we want to allow ourselves to kind of get okay with that idea. And everyone in this mini challenge, and actually for that matter, like anyone in our Facebook group, is at a different stage. Maybe you have a little bit of weight to lose, or maybe you want to gain some, you want to build muscle, perform, just improve your health. Hey, maybe you're working through like a more complex case. Take your time, but take action. And I know it's a little bit vague, right? So what's the topic? Taking action. And like I said, it's a little bit different than the last couple of days. It all comes down to you doing the work. And this is something that gets said over and over again. But here's the thing, guys, we can go online, we can, watch the reels, the TikToks, the whatever, right? We can even go to YouTube and learn a little bit more. We can read books, or you can download my ebook and learn about nutrition. But I always say there's a difference between knowing the path and walking the path. This kind of goes back to, excuse me. This kind of goes back to, coaches sometimes being very uncoachable, which is kind of funny if you think about it. It's a very common thing. But you tend to think, oh, I know this stuff. Okay, but are you doing it? Are we doing the thing? Are we doing the work required to reach that goal that we tell ourselves is so important? And I'm just going to speak general, right? It always blows my mind when I see things about motivation and those kind of things where we've had this goal, sometimes for years, sometimes for decades. I work with people who've been trying to lose weight for multiple decades. They don't manage, and they finally do with us, right? Through hard work. But okay, these people show up even though for decades they've tried, right? They've tried the wrong things, and it's not their fault, but still. It always blows my mind when people don't keep taking action, even though they've struggled for that long, whether it is a decade, even like 1 or 2 years, 5 years, 10, 20, whatever it is. Because at some point, we're going to run into unmotivated moments. And I actually just wrote an article about this, so it's going to be up tomorrow. Kind of like dealing with discomfort and just taking it one step at a time. And just kind of like accepting the situation, what it is currently. And I want you to start there, because we can talk about like how things work specifically, but there's a few things. It starts with awareness. Are we aware of our current problem? I'm saying problem because problems have solutions, right? Are we aware of our current situation? Are we aware that we need to change? Do we want to change? Are we ready for change, right? Because some people are not, and that is okay. There are a few different stages when it comes to change, and not everyone is going to be ready, and that is okay. But now let's assume that we are at the stage where we want to take action and we want to do something about our current state. We created awareness. We know that where we are currently at, we are unhappy. We do not want to stay here. So obviously something needs to happen to change that. So now we're going to start taking action towards that goal. But is that goal, that big goal that we tell ourselves, once again, is so important that we've been chasing 1, 2, 5, 10, 20 plus years? Is that goal actually so unimportant that we just stop after a couple of weeks of, no motivation, a couple of days of low motivation, and light just went off? You cannot allow yourself to do that, right? You can't. You're not going to make it. And I'm not going to say that it's easy, and I'm not going to say that I'm perfect with this. Definitely not. And we all have our roadblocks, and we all have our moments where we get tested. And you know what? Sometimes we give in, because taking action does also not mean being perfect. Taking action also doesn't mean that we're not going to be frustrated, not going to be pissed off, not going to be sad, whatever it is, when we are hit with roadblocks or setbacks, whatever it is, and when we fall off, again. That's not what taking action is. Taking action doesn't mean that you're not going to fail. Taking action means that when you fail, you show up again the very next day and you keep trying. Because failure doesn't make you a failure only if you allow it to stop you from taking the next step. And if you guys want, I'll share the new article in the group tomorrow as well. I'm just doing short ones currently, but it's a lot of mindset stuff. But here's the thing, guys. It's going to take work. It's going to take time. It's going to take effort. You're not going to be motivated all the time. There's work to be done. And there's only one way around that, and it's by doing it. Make sense? And I know this is stuff you've heard before. This is stuff you've heard before, but it's stuff that you need to be reminded of. And it's stuff that you need to be paying attention to, because before you know it, we're months down the road and we kind of like forgot that all of a sudden, right, that goal just kind of like slipped our mind and it's not a priority anymore. We're almost through February right now. People told themselves that in 2024, It was going to be the year where they lost 10 kilos. It was going to be the year where they did XYZ. And then now, less than 60 days in, they already stop. We have that big goal for which we give ourselves 12 months, or at least we say so, but then we stop. And I know you guys watching, especially the people watching live, I see there's a few people live with me. So like this video if you don't mind, to know who it is. Also, if you're watching a replay, by the way. And if you guys haven't yet, subscribe on YouTube, because that's where we do our podcast as well, or Spotify. But okay, not you guys. You guys are actually paying attention. You guys are showing up. And I know, I mean, I was trying to be respectful of your time and with, these kind of calls and try to not make them too long. But I mean, some of you like showed up every single day for 5 days, and we're live like 30 to 40 plus minutes. I think that shows a lot, shows a lot of character, shows that you are willing to learn, shows that you're going to do something about your current state and you're going to keep working on it. And of course, I'm not going to assume that everyone is in a super unhealthy, terrible place. Of course not. But we all have some work to do, I feel like. I know I do. So that being said, let's first get into our questions. So actually, I did get a question from Johanna. So she doesn't have Facebook. She's like, hey, can I just email it to you? Or at least I told her to. So we're going to address that one first, and then we'll get into taking action, the topic for today. So Johanna says, without Facebook, yeah, so my question for training, do YouTube workouts let me see real quick. Do YouTube workouts, are YouTube workouts beneficial? I'm going to say yes and no. I'm going to say yes and no. I think it's totally great if you want to get a workout in, you want to get moving, sure, feel free to do so. I will always push all of my clients to get on a program, whether that's through their gym, a PT, or a training program that we build for them. Because you're going to get better results altogether. Now, I will say this, if you're working out from home, for example, you can get great results doing, home workouts through YouTube if you want to. If you, for example, are on a trip and you do a quick YouTube workout, I think that's a great idea. But then what I will say as well is that a lot of times, and this depends where someone is in their journey. So for you, Joanna, I'm not sure where you're currently at. But you mentioned, right, I'm a student athlete. Sometimes I'm training twice a day, which is quite a lot, right? So if the workout is, let me see real quick. So you mentioned if my workout is low impact, I do like an extra hour of YouTube workout. So my question is, should I keep doing that? Or should I give my body more rest? I mean, I would say more rest in your case, in that case. So this is where my answer needs to be kind of like, there's two sides to this. First of all, I'm going to speak general. For most people, I would say it's fine. Again, vacation, just get some movement in. I think it would be a great idea. Now, what I'm looking at here, though, right, if we get specific to where you're currently at, right, for athletes specifically, if you're a student athlete and you're sometimes training twice a day, then you need to slow down and you need to rest, because you're already doing plenty. You're probably even doing a little bit on the higher end. I'm not going to say too much because I don't know your current, right, exact routine and protocol, whatever, but it sounds like a lot. So what I'm going to say is the following. Since you are already doing twice a day, sometimes you're already doing stuff at a high level as an athlete, then don't add random shit, because that's basically what it is in this scenario. Get more rest. You don't have to do even more, right? And this is where I always preach, like you always hear people talk about, a healthy relationship with food. We need that same thing with exercise. If we think that we only have to go hard every single time and more is better, then we're going to burn out. You will get either sick, you will get injured, or you will hit burnout, or all three, and I've been there myself. I've seen many people do it. So what you want to do is respect the fact that the body needs to recover, that it needs to build muscle, that we need to manage our stress, basically meaning, hey, we're in fight or flight sometimes when we train, and sometimes we're in rest and digest. And that's right, balancing our stress response, basically. And if we're constantly cranking that stress response, we're going to run into issues as well. You're not going to recover well. It's going to impact sleep. whether we fall asleep or not, like sleep quality suffers. Um, so yeah, general answer for most people, sure. If it's on vacation, those kind of things, sure. Home workouts, etc. Um, but in case of the athlete, a little bit more, like at a higher level, I should say, then I would definitely say like, no, don't add extra stuff. If we want to get moving more, go on a walk, right? Low intensity stuff because we need to have that lower impact, that stress managing, lower impact activity. Um, but of course, I don't know the programming, so there's only so much I can say here. I've just seen too many people do way too much, and it backfires. So Lisa says, I actually think I'm in a good place with doing my best to take action. I'm 6 months in to CrossFit and I love it. First of all, right, Lisa, awesome for starting that 6 months ago and still going. I know that's a hard kind of thing to get into, but it's really cool. And it's fun too because you're learning, new movements and you really get to use your body there. So make sure to keep scaling your workouts, of course, but great work. So you mentioned, so one thing that has stuck out to me that you said this week is that fat loss and muscle gain are two different phases. Yeah, that's true. That's true. I think my lack of knowledge and true understanding of how the body works is what holds me back. I do believe I'm listening to my body more as I get older and what foods make me feel good versus not. And I learned this week. I still have a lot to learn. Thank you so much for this week. Absolutely. So yeah, Lisa, we could take this anywhere. What I would say is, again, like it's priorities first. But for the vast majority of people, it's likely going to be beneficial to first try to cut weight loss, or sorry, to try to cut body fat. So start with your weight loss phase and then build muscle afterwards. Because this is what I do have to say, of course. Um, usually when I see people confused in terms of different goals, and we want to achieve both, I'm always going to say, let's cut body fat first if we have not been chronically dieting. So again, right, there's so many ifs here, but I have to say this. If we are coming from like under eating and those kind of things, then I'm always going to push for multiple months of maintenance. And then we are going to feed the metabolism. We're going to feed the hormones and we're going to feed the body just feeling good and actually getting you feeling good, like energy wise and stuff. Now, if that's not the case, because again, right, a lot of ifs here. If that's not the case, I would say short phase to kind of like get good routines in and then starting a fat loss phase. Maybe do that for 3-4 months just about, but then also working on keeping it off part, which in my experience, a reverse diet is going to be best there. But again, it's going to require, in my opinion, guidance, right? And this is not me pitching coaching, but like it is so much more effective than it is. You have the person who's been there, done that, right? So that could be me, could be someone else. Like I don't really care, to be honest with you. Of course, I'd love to work with you, but I'm not saying this to sell coaching. I'm saying this because I truly believe in coaching and the guidance. And it wasn't until I started getting help from people with my fitness back then, like that's when I went from doing just random stuff because I kind of thought like I kind of knew how to eat healthy, right? But that's when I went from that to actually figuring it out. Now, fast forward to 2022, 3-ish, right? Super recent. I had a similar kind of thing with business stuff, with coaching. And, I'm always trying to grow and I'm trying to help more people. And, I was kind of at a level where, it was going well, but I was like not growing at some point. And this is a little while ago. And then, I realized like, hey, like I'm trying to do this all on my own. There's people who have been there, done that, who have the experience. I can get a shortcut through them. And in a way you can read books and those kind of things. Yeah, that helps. But getting accountability and one-on-one guidance and those kind of things, like it's huge. And that is going to allow you to get better results faster. I'm not saying that you can't do it on your own. Of course you can. I did as well. Took me a long time and I messed up a lot, but you can do it. But in a way, I hope that anyone watching this training, whether it's live or replay or even later, I hope that in a setting, I can be that person for you, whether that's coaching or not, whether that's maybe just in a free group here, through the podcast, through the newsletter, the blogs, whatever it may be. Hey, post questions in the group. I know that now we created the habit of like actually asking questions because you got points, but I'm trying to push people to really engage here because I know you guys get questions, and I know we could keep doing this every single day, and we're still gonna have stuff to talk about by the end of the year. It's just that in Facebook groups, a lot of people kind of don't feel like posting because they don't want to be that first person, you know. But I think with all of you, like we can work together and really kind of get that up, you know, because there's hundreds of people in this group. I know for a fact we got millions of questions to dive into, you know, or at least thousands. Um, but yeah, Lisa, so thank you first of all for just showing up, asking questions. When it comes to fat loss and muscle gain, personally, I would start with fat loss if you're ready to do so. And if you need more tips, just hit me up. I'm happy to help you there in terms of food choices, maybe amounts and those kind of things. Um, and then from there, either way, you're going to have to take a break at maintenance and feed the body and, you know, kind of like restore your metabolism and kind of get back to a place where you are getting enough because the body adapts, right? That could be a really nice place to put on some muscle. And then what you can do afterwards, if you want to go for round two for fat loss, you can do that. If you want to stay at maintenance, there you go. But fat loss after muscle gain is pretty common too. Now, Christine says, do you have hacks to avoid procrastination? Sometimes just do it works for me, like going to the gym. But in other areas, like making a meal plan for the week, I tend to have a more mañana way of thinking. I'm not sure what that means, but I do love that the following. She says, or to use a Norwegian phrase to it, I can't seem to get the finger up my ass. Okay. Okay, that's definitely a new one for me. I'm gonna remember that one. I should know I live in Norway, but no, like all joking aside, I feel you. I feel you. It's hard. Like it is hard. I struggle with that too sometimes. My clients do, successful people do, right? People who don't reach our goals also do. So that's one thing we all have in common. We put off the work we kind of know needs doing. We like to do the quick, the easy stuff, but then if there's like a big task, and you know, I have that sometimes with content, for example, or you know, work, we're way more like we would love to do like the little tasks and just keep checking those boxes, right? But that one big thing, we always kind of push that further. And then I used to do this with homework, you know. But okay, at some point it's gonna have to get done. You know what I mean? Um, and I like to talk about like extreme ownership, and it's like in a way everything is our fault in a way, right? That goes for good and bad stuff. We need to own where we are at, and we need to own the fact that only we can do something about our current state. And we need to own the fact that there are consequences to our actions and there are consequences to inaction as well. And I feel like with procrastination, it's mostly inaction, right? I think if we slow down and kind of think like, hey, like, would it inherently be like a good or bad thing? Most of the times, like, or, you know, pretty much all the time, I would say it's not going to be a great thing because inaction does not lead to change. Inaction does not lead to results. Inaction leads to comfort. And that's that comfort zone we always talk about, right? And I wrote an article about this too, but like stepping out your comfort zone is overused. You hear it all the time, but it's also true. We have a certain like area where we kind of feel like, you know, if I can keep doing this, it's my own right routines and I'm used to doing this, etc. And it's easy. But then if we need to create change, especially with things like meal plans and all that, you know, like we we feel like it's more work than it really is. And we give it more mental energy instead of just doing it and getting it done. I get this with writing all the time. Sometimes I'm like, oh, you know, I can't think of something. But then I realize like, hey, like I'm also not sitting down and actually doing the writing. And guess what? When I just sit down and start typing, eventually it comes, you know. We're going back to you. So when it comes to the meal planning, yeah, so I would like to know when you tend to forget or when you tend to kind of push it away. I would like to know if this is maybe a busyness thing, a stress thing, you know, I want to figure out like where can you do it? Can we make an appointment with ourselves and stick to that appointment? If we're going to do it on like a Monday where we have like a crazy busy day, it's probably not going to happen. But if you think about it, a meal plan for the week, how long does that need to take? Do we need 100 different meals? Or are we mostly eating the same thing most days anyway? That being said, it's kind of like a daily meal plan that we're making. Okay, so now all of a sudden, instead of a week, it's only 5 meals. Objectively speaking, that's nothing. And we can all knock a few meals out in no time. I'm going to take oats with protein powder, peanut butter, and berries for meal one. Rice, chicken, what kind of vegetables you want, olive oil. Meal two, tortillas, ground beef, bell pepper, lettuce, avocado. Meal three, right? Cottage cheese, berries, nuts and seeds. Meal four, salmon, pasta, whatever. You see? And we could keep going like that, obviously. And I think as well that you probably have a certain, routine already with your meals, or at least you have your preferences. Okay, let's build on those. Let's not overcomplicate, but let's maybe introduce one meal and just repeat a few of the other ones. And I'm saying repeating, like you need your variety, absolutely. That's going to be key for micronutrients. But if we can create a structure so that it's easier to create that meal plan so that we're more likely to stick to it because it becomes easier, there's like no reason not to do it, But I mean, I will say this, if you are able to tell yourself, just do it when it comes to going to the gym, then you can do the same thing for your meals. Because objectively speaking, right, the workout is harder and more uncomfortable. The meal plan is maybe a little bit more thinking, but if you think about it this way, if you do it once and you can stick to it and you build it out and you improve it over time, it's not going to require that much work. So my tip is going to be find a moment in your week, in your schedule, where you can plan for it. Do it now. Go to Google Calendar, time block it for yourself, set a timer, set a alarm with that, a reminder, and get it done. Schedule like half an hour. If you're done sooner, great. You see? Sina asks, when you have been lifting weights for a long time and the progression is starting to slow down, do you have any tips to stay motivated often, or do you change program or exercises, or should you just keep doing the same still? Yeah, a very good question. Thank you for bringing that one up. It's a very common thing to see. It sounds like you've been weightlifting for a long time already. You're kind of slowing down. The fact that you're asking, like, should I just keep doing the same, may indicate, again, I'm definitely assuming here, right? May indicate that you've been doing a lot of the same stuff for a long time. And then, yes, I would say change it up. Change it up, but start with a deload. You might have just been pushing it too far too. I also don't know where your nutrition is, because I will say this too, like nutrition and sleep are going to be bigger when it comes to that sometimes, right? It's both, but like sometimes for some people. So address your sleep, address your nutrition. But if it's pure training, because by the way, yes, like as you progress and as you get better with the years and as you're more experienced, it for sure makes it more difficult to kind of progress, but it should still be possible. And if you're not, do the following, right? Take a deload, a full week. Upcoming week, make it a deload. You can already switch programs, but use that first week to kind of give yourself a week to kind of get used to new routines and try new movements, but get on a program. If you're an experienced lifter, get on a program and do that for maybe, I don't know, 8 or so weeks. And I change it up again. And then anytime you change it up, that first week, use that as a deload if you need to. Or if you notice, hey, I'm really getting sore and, I'm not recovering well, I'm not progressing, then you can already take a deload earlier. And that's a big one. People don't want to take deloads, but that's the thing that's going to allow your body to repair better and then come back stronger. You see? And of course, Tina, if you have more questions, let me know if you have chat as well, because I know there as well, there's so many, right? It's like a huge it depends question. But I feel like with that, you can already, get started. And then Sarah says, I don't struggle with taking action once I've set my goals. What I struggle with is deciding what my main goal should be and stick to that. And don't get influenced into adding more and more. I need to be confident and loyal to my goals. Tips. And also, thank you for this week. It's been great. Yeah, of course. Thank you for participating. Yeah, it's a really good one. I struggle with this business wise. I think we get, I mean, this is on your fitness journey, is on any journey. I think we can easily get distracted by what's called like the shiny objects, right? Shiny object syndrome. It's like you're on a roll, but then all of a sudden this other cool thing kind of shows up. You kind of want to, right? You get distracted, and now your mental energy goes that way, and then you kind of forget about this. I've seen this happen, right? People do a certain, they're on a roll with their nutrition, and all of a sudden it's like, hey, my friends want to do 75 hard. Okay, now I'm going to join them. Guess what? They fall off after a few weeks. Okay, what now? Like, hey, maybe we should have just stayed the course, you see? So it kind of depends whether you mean fitness or anything else. I will say this, it is very common. What I think is going to be key there for you is scheduling if you don't do this yet. Daily, weekly, monthly self-reflection. I do this daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, yearly, of course, which you can do as well. You can even set 5-year goals, 10 years, whatever, which is not even that much of that crazy of an idea. But when you have those bigger goals, you can break it down into actions, right? But I would say if you can do that and you can write things down, you could do things like journaling, and you do something like there is a planner that's called the Monk Manual, which I really like, and it allows you to plan for your quarters, your months, and your weeks and days, I think it is. Yeah, or at least days, weeks, and months. I forgot about quarter, but it doesn't matter. I use that for a long time. Currently, I don't, but I use a similar kind of system. And schedule time for yourself where you, in your routine, or you create the routine, and it takes time to create that routine, but where you sit down and you reflect on where you're currently at. And then every single month, you're going to say, hey, this is my one main goal for that month, for example, or these are my 5 top things that need to get done or that I want to achieve, right? And then you can break that down into the week. What are like my main things, or what are my like 3 absolutely essential things that I need to get done, and then some other tasks as well. And then on a daily basis, hey, what's my most important thing to get done today? What's my top 3 of, kind of like below that most important? What do I need to do? Are there any other smaller tasks I need to get done? And then as you do that, right? So it's part to-do list and part, you can write down your main goal, and you can see how that breaks down into your weeks and days, etc. Or even if you just use it as a reminder for yourself, where you write that. And I have something here too. I have a piece of paper here where I write it on, and I have a big statement for this current week, which kind of came up through like a journaling session that I did. But that's because I set goals for 2024, which are broken down into the quarter, which are broken down obviously into the month. The month breaks down into the week, and I can then I keep track of the big picture through that system. And of course, the week breaks down into days, you see. Um, so I would say if you can schedule a daily or weekly, and then you can do it as much as you want, but check in with yourself, where you ask yourself those questions, where it's like, hey, my main goal that I set, take a day, for example, even like if you want to, schedule like a full day where you think about your goals and stuff, or half a day, whatever you need. But like do that, and then start breaking it down, and remind yourself of the big picture. Put it on a sticky note, like do what you got to do to remind yourself. Um, and also be okay with the fact that new ideas don't have to mean that we act on them right away. You can put those somewhere, write them down, right? You know what? Like write these down for your next monthly reflection. And then you could think, hey, this was kind of cool. First of all, does this support my main goal, yes or no? And if not, should I wait? Right? And if so, is it maybe still worth doing? And that's up to you to decide. But I feel like that's one way to kind of go about it. Um, Because you know what happens otherwise? You're kind of like goal hopping, and like not everything gets done or not well. And then at the end of the day, like we're not really getting anywhere, you know? So one thing at a time, kind of like the fat loss and muscle gain thing. Like we want to really, of course, there's few things that we can do here, but like we really want to focus on like that main goal, and then we go to the next. Karina says, I'm in a good place when sorry, let me see real quick. I'm in a good place and I have realized that I cannot be driven by the motivation that everyone talks about because it comes and goes. I'm driven forward by self-discipline and I stand up for myself. I love that. That's great. What I noticed is that you said earlier this week and in the last podcast one with Pia that weight loss and building muscle are two different stages. Yeah, absolutely. It's interesting because what I've been told is that you need to go down in fat percentage and up in muscle. Yeah, that's exactly what you do. You go down in fat percentage through a fat loss phase, and then you go up in muscle through a muscle gain phase. But continuing, and it's been insanely difficult, and I feel I've gone through the cracks. Now I'm following in the steps of PSA bags and Staccarat and getting good results there, which is awesome, by the way. But can you explain with the weight loss and muscle mass, why do you have to do it separately? And is there anything that needs to be aware of in those two different stages? Yeah, absolutely. Really good question, Karina. Thank you for asking. So, yeah, I mean, definitely, like it should be approached separately for most people. It sounds like you're already someone who's kind of like been lifting, you've been working hard, and maybe you want to achieve both, and that's great. So here's the thing. There are a few scenarios where people can lose fat and build muscle, but it's very uncommon. It's just not common at all. Which is why I think most people should not be aiming for it, because most people are going to be impatient because body recomposition is a real thing. It can happen when you all of a sudden get on a good training program, once you really dial in your nutrition and you do some cardio, you get your steps in and just everything is in a good spot, you manage your stress. But you know what? It's going to take so long. And that's okay, but most people are not going to see the difference. There's a scenario where people can see a lot of it at the same time, which would be called newbie gains, which is when someone just starts lifting weights. When they're completely new to going to the gym and those kind of things, you can build a lot of muscle and lose a lot of fat at the same time, especially if that's combined with protein intake. Like if they've been low on protein and they crank that up, that is one thing too. Those are the only natural scenarios where that would happen, because we're not going to be able to chase two rabbits at once. You're only going to catch one. Here's the deal. Muscle mass requires you to be at maintenance or even slightly higher, because it's very expensive for the body to have muscle, right? It burns calories. Now, if you think about it, for your body, right, it only cares about surviving and procreation. Why would we build this expensive tissue, right? Like, why would we put on tissue, muscle mass, that burns more calories, which means that we're going to have to eat more to keep that up, right? Why would we do that? Why would the body even consider doing that if it's not getting enough calories to even just fuel for your current body? So you want to be at least at maintenance, preferably on the higher end, or in a slight surplus. So when you go into a muscle gain phase, the goal is to gain weight. No one wants to hear that, but you're going to gain weight. If you want to do a successful muscle gain phase, we're going to have to gain weight. And that is okay. Because here's the cool thing. In a muscle gain phase, if you go slow and you go between 0.25 and 0.5% per week, you can put on a really good amount of muscle and a very minimal body fat, and the results will be great. But a lot of times you're still not going to lose the body fat, you know what I mean? Because that's just not part of that phase. We're inherently going to gain a little bit of body fat with that muscle. Unpopular truth, but that is how the body works. And you know what? Having a little bit of body fat is actually good, because that means there's a lot of energy, which means the body can, move some resources to building muscle. Now, during fat loss, so we just established that for muscle gain, you need to be at maintenance, or at least even a little bit higher, right? If you want to effectively do it, if you actually want to put on a good amount of muscle that's going to be visible, that you're going to be super stoked about, it's going to take time. It's going to require an actual muscle gain phase for 3 to 4 months at least. But that is it for muscle gain. For fat loss, though, we need to be in a calorie deficit, which means that we eat too few calories for the amount of calories that you burn on a daily basis. That's how fat loss works. Your body starts to burn body fat because it's not getting enough energy from food. It thinks, oh shit, there's no food around. First of all, I'm going to make you stressed and hungry so that you go look for food, right? And now we're also going to burn some of our fat stores so that we can still get the energy from our body fat. So it requires the exact opposite. That is how the body works. So I've heard this one before too, right? Because you mentioned, right? I've been told that I need to go down in fat percentage and go up in muscle. Yeah, that's true. Not at the same time, though. There are exceptions, but like I said before, like unless we're like beginners, or we're making big changes to our nutrition, it's not going to be too, we're not going to expect that to happen. Remember too, right? Fat loss also isn't forever. So here's where we go through different phases to optimize kind of like where we want to get to. So you mentioned, right? It's very difficult. You've gone through, a bunch of things, now you're following the program, which by the way is awesome. That's super good. So you have a workout program, right? You're getting good results. But weight loss and muscle gain is just completely just two different things, right? Weight loss and fat loss are two different things, even. So there are three states of energy balance. You're eating at maintenance, which is where you get exactly like enough for how many calories you burn on a daily basis. In a surplus, right? It's too much. That's why you gain weight. The cool thing is, if that's a little bit, we mostly put on muscle if we are training well enough, right? And then if it's fat loss, we need to be below that. We need to be below maintenance. That's a calorie deficit. But it's also not something we stay at. So the real magic, I feel like, happens at maintenance, but we're going to have to go through different phases to actually achieve the body that we want. Because, guys, there's not one meal plan. There's not one way to do nutrition. It's not like, hey, I'm going to eat like this and that is it. No, your intake, like the seasons in the year, right? You have spring, winter, etc. It's the same exact thing with nutrition. There are seasons to nutrition. There are seasons to training. If we always push our weightlifting, if we always push cardio, whatever it is, like whatever we do too much of, eventually we're going to adapt, right? And it's going to be better to change it, to train maybe different energy systems, to maybe create change in our bodies, right? But especially when it comes to nutrition, right? There's going to be different seasons to nutrition if we really want to get good results. So that's where periodization comes in, which we kind of talked about yesterday. So that brings us to the actual end of our final Q&A for this mini challenge.